Hey, hello everybody. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, Matrix Money Tuesday. How's everyone doing? I just
Hopefully
put out the
everybody's doing well.
notification on X. We'll just give it a moment here.
Yeah. The notification's still going out on YouTube. I can see it.
Yep.
Appreciate everybody. Oh, there they go. People are starting to flow in. Appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for being here. As every Tuesday, appreciate seeing you on the Matrix Money podcast. We got a special guest today. We're going to introduce him in a minute. Maybe we'll give a quick shout out quickly, but we're not going to go through a lot of the chat today. But I will say this: if you have a question for our guest today, make sure you put it into the chat, and we will try to get to that as we're live today. Jar, anything else you want to add to that before we kind of?
Just trying to stay warm right now, brother. That's it. It's a cold one here.
Man, shit, ain't that the truth though, man?
Yes,
oh
yes.
my!
And we're sending it your way.
I know. It's starting to flow in. I'm starting to get chilly here right now. Honest to goodness. I actually had my sweatshirt on before we started the stream, and I was like, all right, I want to look professional, so I'll take my sweatshirt off, but I'm freezing now. So.
Yeah. I know what it's like. Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. Real quick, we got Lion Bear. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Shuby in the house. Welcome.
Shuby.
Damn it, Dave, as always. Appreciate it.
Dave,
warmth is the best. Damn it, Dave says. Warmth is the best. Yeah.
He's in Vegas. Okay.
Well, there you go. There it is. Appreciate all you guys being here. Like I said, we're gonna kind of get right to it. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. You know what? I will bring up the chat though. That way people can see the chat. We have a guest today, Joël Valenzuela. If you have been on my channel before, you've seen him. He's been a guest a number of times, and I've put on a lot of his content from some of the speaking engagements that he's done at different conferences and stuff. The guy is a font of knowledge, been at this game for a long time, living on crypto for a long time, and we're very fortunate to have him here today to talk about Dash. So without further ado, let's bring him on up here. Joël, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Happy Tuesday to everyone.
Yes, happy Tuesday. Great, man. We appreciate you being here. We know you're busy, and appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of my mantra for the last few years has been anyone, anytime, anywhere, and you've always been one of the better hosts here, and I always enjoy my time here. Met you in person, great person as well. So how could I say no, right? What else? Eating dinner or something?
I like it. Remember that. No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what. Because again, though we're broadcasting on 3 different X channels, 3 different YouTube channels, doing multiple streams, even verticals, and Patreon right now. We're going to be on Odyssey after this is done. So I definitely want people to know who you are. So why don't you give us the whatever you want. I'm going to say the TLDR, but you tell us about you, man.
Yeah, so my name is Joël, as some of you might have surmised. I do business development and marketing for Dash. I've been in the space for 13 plus years now. Depends on when you can. If you talk about when I was talking about crypto, it would be more like 14. But since I've been using it, it's like close to 13. So
wow.
I've been mostly my sort of claim to fame thing is like the experiment of using crypto as money instead of traditional money for the past 10 years or so it's been. And it's become significantly easier these days. I think within the next 5 years, no one's going to be like, well, that's different. But it is kind of the thing that as someone with a journalism background, I always like to go to source documents for things. And I think it really helps with, crypto if you go to the source of being an end user, and you could connect that to the apps, to then the core protocol, and tell the core protocol devs, hey, this doesn't work, this does work, do more of this, do less of this. And that's kind of why I continue to do it, and it serves me pretty well. So as always, very happy to be on here.
Now, I know I know you abridged that story of you quite a bit there, but like I also know that you started out like trying to find what was good money and things like, you know, starting with Bitcoin and you know, Litecoin and all these other things. Do you find all that experience helpful with what you're doing now with Dash?
Absolutely. Like it's the most helpful thing, I should say, because I just was on a space today talking a lot about this stuff where about what happened to crypto. Is it all about gambling? All this kind of like, you know, kind of bear market blues kind of vibes. And basically, I think that if you don't, you have a lot of apps and products and blockchains and everything that we've been building in this space that I like to say was built good enough to demo on stage at Consensus or a big conference and then just say done, and then everyone buys your token and you get rich. And that's it, but not good enough for end users who constantly come back with problems, with feedback, with things like that. Absolutely. And so that's the big barrier why we haven't yet had mass adoption, you know, little chicken or the egg kind of thing, is because that people have been rewarded to build stuff financially that doesn't necessarily have to work. And I think that time is drying up. I think we're getting to the time when the money will only come when you get the users, and the users will only come if it works. And we're getting close to that. So for those who have clunky products, it's gonna be rough for you in the future.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're in that area right now, especially in the DePIN space, because that's what I'm more familiar with. But projects that just made products that don't really mean anything have completely been wiped out. And I'm seeing that purge happening right now. So real utility means something right now. And I think those ones are the ones that are going to survive and slowly rise to the top as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So living off of this for 10 years is a really long time. Are you finding this to become a lot easier right now with lots of tools? I know you talked about, I believe it's called Spritz, when you're paying bills and everything else like that. Are you noticing that more and more projects are coming towards those day-to-day transactions and ease of use?
Yeah, absolutely. In the early days, I should say, there was like a couple of mainstream companies, services, whatever that I could use with crypto. Everything else was peer-to-peer, meaning I had to bootstrap things. Like I was lucky to live in an area with a few different merchants local to me that did accept it directly. And then of course there's friends and contacts and other community people that you could just say, hey, can you get this for me if I pay you in crypto, or like those kinds of things. And then of course the first, I would say 6 months of living on, or 4 or 5 months, I still had a bank account. And so at the end of the month, if I needed to pay rent, I just sell whatever is left and pay for my bank. And then after I didn't have that, it was a couple of years of having a little bit of cash that you'd sell crypto for on hand just in case. And that hasn't really been the case in the last 2, maybe 3 years or so. So it's really like evolved. And I would kind of say broadly, there were 3 big eras of crypto adoption that I lived through, I guess. At least the adoption is money. The first is just that sort of peer-to-peer type era, the mom and pop era. And then right now we're kind of in the middle of, or the tail end of, the service provider area, where not a lot of times are you going directly to the mom and pop merchant. You're doing through a lot of, intermediaries might not be, a nice sounding word, but basically is like a bunch of spending tools that bridge the gap between your crypto and the real world. And then we're just starting to come into the mass adoption era, where you do have like a massive set of point of sale systems come online that just takes crypto, like millions at a time. And then before you know it, you connect the dots, and then even though of course those are all through, payment providers and plugins into the wallet and a bunch of other stuff like that, it is still just you're paying crypto directly to the merchant receptacle, as it were, right from your wallet without an extra function. And then that's kind of the mass adoption era. So we're kind of going through this, like, we're finally coming to the tail end of the everyone can kind of use crypto, but like if your feelies might not like it, that every once in a while you have to buy a gift card or something like that. We're kind of coming to the end of that era, and then we're getting into, where it's more kind of mainstream.
Is there like a key hurdle or a key step that we need to cross in order for that to happen? Like something that you see very specific for us to get there?
Um, yeah, it basically has to do with payment provider integrations. And I think that one thing for that is when you're doing payment processing and stuff like that, there was a lot of regulatory uncertainty in a lot of the world that kind of
Yes.
stopped that. And also just the user demand wasn't quite there that people could see. But basically, I think the great you know, sign of all this is Jack Dorsey and Square. The Square point of sale systems all over the world, pretty much as far as I'm aware, can now accept Bitcoin payments through the Lightning Network. And it's just everyone knows someone who has a Square merchant. But then there's plenty of others that are much more crypto agnostic all over the world that are starting to do the same as well. So next time you go to buy groceries or whatever, like, is there an Ingenico point of sale system? Is it a Verifone? Like, both of those are in talks or starting to roll out crypto payment acceptance. And so that's the kind of thing is wherever you go to pay, whether it's Stripe on an online checkout, whether it's one of these, that's where you're going to start to see crypto get adopted. So that's just the barrier. It's just like time and then adoption, like time and then the business development work of making deals and getting things built into these systems. And then we're just kind of off to the races.
Right. Well, I love the fact I love Dash first off, and I think you know that already. But I'm very impressed with the fact that you are very cognizant of like the user interface and the user experience with regard to the way that Dash is kind of rolling out in the DashPay and so on and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about how Dash, like the behind the scenes meetings or whatever, with how you guys focus on that aspect of it and what might be coming in the future with regard to it?
Yes. So as far as like the user experience, is that the question?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So as far as user experience, the best teacher to that is trying it and getting frustrated and then asking why and then fixing that. And that's kind of the process. So as far as it like back in 2014, back when Dash was still called Darkcoin, they debuted a feature called Instant X, which is now called Instant Send. And it used to be an optional feature, is now every transaction by default, which basically makes it finalized in like 1 second. And that was kind of back in the early days, people were using crypto and you have to wait for confirmations. A lot of people were doing zero confirmation things on just making it work. And it was kind of that foresight of this isn't going to work in practice. We need a function that just works, that just sends. And then also Dash's founder, Evan Duffield, came up with this idea called Evolution, which basically was to add smooth, modern payment app style interfaces and infrastructure to the actual protocol. So you could actually pay to like someone's username. You could add them to your friends list to just pay again and all that kind of stuff. And so that took a while to get right, but it's just like a basic vision of this has to just sort of just work. And also I would say it has a lot to do with the commitment of not doing it the wrong way. There's so many quick fixes in crypto where there's like, oh, it's good enough, we don't need instant confirmations. Or with like the original username systems that just resolve to a static address with zero privacy. And that just, well, like, not to disparage, but ENS and Unstoppable Domains and those kinds of namespace projects that have sold untold millions of usernames, like they've done very well and but doing a very useful thing, by the way. I'm not knocking that, but they don't have any kind of payment privacy when you're using this, and there's no sort of permanence to there's no connection, there's no contact list that builds into that, and that was fine for the space for a while. But again, it's not the step. Like Dash could have had that before anyone, but just chose to wait to get the whole system right to where now it just works, you know?
Yeah, I think the era of go fast and break things is coming to an end or over in the crypto space as a whole. I mean, do you agree, or am I just like being a little, rose-colored glasses with regard to that?
Well, what I would say is it's not over, but it's the era of no follow-ups is over, because before you go fast break things and then you're satisfied with it, and that's where that doesn't work anymore. Where now you could push something to market. You could do, for example, like Solana style, come out there with a chain that goes down 8 times in the next 2 years.
Exactly.
But what they did is then they fixed it to where it doesn't really go down anymore. And that's what you have to do. You have to come back to it and fix it. And so you could say like Dash's instant transaction functionality was an optional flag. You had to just check a box, certain wallets supported it, that kind of stuff. And that, again, is not good enough, but it was good enough to start. But then you have to revisit it later and actually fix it. And just like 51% attack protection, just like other things, you have to actually go back eventually and do something about it. So I do hope people do still move fast and break things, but then I hope that they're also honest about what they're pushing on users.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And acknowledge that it broke. That's the other part, right? Transparency. Because it's just like the end customer can sometimes help resolve those issues if you have that conversation. So that's kind of a key piece.
Yeah. Hey, sorry guys, it broke.
Yeah. Oops. Well, even if they do that these days. Well, let me, for those who might be, we got a bunch of people jumping in, by the way. If you are just jumping in, welcome. Appreciate you being here. We're here with Joël Valenzuela from Dash. We're going to be talking a bunch of things about Dash. If you have a question for him, by all means, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll try and get to that during the course of this live stream. But Joël, for those who don't know Dash, I mean, they've been around the space, obviously Dash is kind of an OG in the space, but for those who may not be familiar with Dash and the way you've got kind of like 2 chains kind of going at the same time, if you would, could you explain that to them?
Yeah, so basically there's 2 very different, I guess, use cases, and we kind of find this with a lot of cryptocurrencies where first of all, you had Bitcoin that did Bitcoin things, and the structure was a very certain way with very certain trade-offs. And then, of course, you had Ethereum come around and do a very different sort of subset of things, more data type things, and also a very different structure. And typically, you've had cryptocurrencies fall into one of 2 camps or basic technical setups. And so, like, for example, a UTXO model, or unspent transaction output model, which is what Bitcoin is, which is basically like coins, where you have crypto as coins, right? You can have coins across a few addresses, but the actual coins get tracked when you send. And if I send you, say, 10 dash, and if I send you 5 dash and I only have 10 dash, I send you the whole 10 dash, but then get 5 back. It's a change address, right? You split it. And that's just the way things work. I mean, some of it might be a little technical, some of it might be very basic, but the Ethereum, etc. model is account based, just has like an address with a balance on it. And the way things work at a structural level is the UTXO model, for example, is much easier to scale and parallelize because you basically just have to track the movements of certain coins. You don't have to query every single address on the network all the time. Again, we go down a very long rabbit hole on that whole thing, so I'll keep it brief. But then the account-based model is a lot better for sort of uniformity, which is what you need when you're doing applications and things that reference each other. And so you have to have a knowledge of something called global state, for example. And so anyone highly technical who's watching this is probably pulling their hair out, being like, you didn't mention X, Y, whatever. The point is, very different models. So Dash has a data chain called the evolution chain that is focused on writing decentralized data. So anytime, let's just say you start an X account, you create a user profile, you make a bunch of posts, all that data would then be on the Dash network instead. And so you could still make payments and stuff on the original network, right? But then your usernames and your contact list, your actual friending actions are all on the data chain. And so first of all, you have 2 very different purpose-built chains. So one works one way, one works the other. They're more efficient at what they're at. But also, if there's some sort of a limitation, exploit, kind of congestion on one of those, the other one isn't affected. And so I still remember when I was trying to send an Ethereum transaction at one point in, I think, the 2017 era. And that was the time when the CryptoKitties was going on.
Oh,
And so I
yeah.
couldn't send money because there was a bunch of cats on the network. And so that can't really happen. Like if you have a highly popular app and everyone's doing data things, even if you manage to slow down or crash one network, you're trying to make your payments, your actual money, then that wouldn't be affected. And so that kind of segregation is cool. You get to have two different purposes, two different things. Another thing is if you have different but sort of the same validator sets running these things, like if you want every node in the network to store everything, if it's just some basic data like send money from X to Y to Z kind of thing, that kind of makes more sense on having a Y set. If you have a smaller subset of that, makes more sense of if you're storing data documents and stuff, because
Right.
at that point, if you expand that to like the same number, then the costs go way
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
and therefore
Right.
no one's going to
Blows
use it
everything.
because you pay too much. So just a bunch of different trade-offs of having each system. And so that's why you have both. So you have like a money and a data system plugged together. And as far as I know, I'm not sure any other crypto has something quite like that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything. Jar, I don't know, but I know you're in a lot
it's
more of
kind of
that
unique.
space than I am.
Yeah, it seems definitely unique in that space. So when people are transacting with Dash, is there a stable coin, because the price is going to fluctuate and there's volatility? Is there a recommended path that you want users to use it when it comes down to transactions or making payments or processing or anything like that?
Yeah, there's no stable coin right now. There's a couple being sort of experimented on the evolution chain to figure out the best way of doing that. But first of all, the killer app of crypto since day one was always a replacement for the legacy money and the money and financial system.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that makes, for example, Bitcoin is the meme of 21 million, but basically an actual scarce supply. Like if the most of the world would not care if you have some different digital appy sort of way of sending dollars. Like no one really cares. They only care in the context of actual sound money now, and then somehow stable coins kind of get a pass in there. So the end goal should be to have your wealth in something that can't be restricted and can't be like inflated away, that you can actually store your value in it. But at the same time, something that can't be censored, that can't be shut down, that can't be unissued, or discontinued or whatever. And so stable coins, I do think that they serve a valuable purpose, but it's kind of like a tool, kind of like a training wheel or something. And it should never be viewed as the kind of end situation. And I should remind people that during Brexit, the Great British Pound was less stable than Bitcoin at the time. And Bitcoin became more speculative after that, and therefore more volatile again. The volatility went up rather than down. And then the pound, of course, evened out. But the point is, if you get enough usage as money for these kinds of things, then the volatility just ends up evening out, considerably.
Right. There's still quite a bit of a pathway to get there, though, right? In terms of volatility. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. And the thing is, like, what people view volatility is like a bad thing, but also volatility is the entire reason most people got into crypto to begin with.
Yeah, that's the way you're going to make it.
The number will go up. And so over a long enough period of time, if the volatility equals up more than down, which is kind of the point of having a scarce, limited supply, valuable thing, then you'd rather have the volatility than not. And at the same time, I think on some of the biggest networks, once we get the user era, not just the speculative era, I think that they will have much, much less volatility.
Okay. Got it. So here's sort of an unfair question because you're representing Dash, but it's been 10 years, right? And you're starting over, say you're starting over from
12
scratch.
years.
12 years. Okay. So 12 years. A lot has happened in 12 years when it comes to the crypto space. It started off with a few thousand coins. Now there's millions and millions of tokens. Would you still choose Dash? Is there a comparable crypto that you say is just as powerful? Or what would you choose today if you were to enter the space in your position?
Well, I have to say, I would still pick the exact same thing because it has been a constant decision-making process over the years, right?
Yeah.
So I got in the space 2013. I started using Bitcoin. I was aware of Dash starting in 2014, and then from late 2016 onward, I was mostly I literally went into the market cap rankings and was like, if I can't use Bitcoin as money because the block size wars heated up, I was spending hours waiting for a transaction. Fees were too high. I was struggling to use this to live on. Just looked at the charts. Okay, Bitcoin, cross that one off. What's next? Ethereum, that's not really payments. Cross that one off. Litecoin was an abandoned code base at the time. They picked it up later, but it was basically not going to be maintained. Bitcoin Cash didn't exist for a year, and then Monero also did not have any graphical user interface wallets at all. It was all command line at the time. So like the options were just Dash or nothing. So
Right.
that's what pushed me in there.
Yeah.
After a few years, in somewhere around 2020, I reevaluated things and kept using what I could for money, of course, but looked into stuff like ran a lightning node, looked into some other cryptocurrencies a little bit more deeply. I always kept them in the side of my little side eye or whatever. But I in 2023 I did a podcast for the Zcash Foundation and kind of got pretty into that ecosystem. It is a very cool ecosystem with a lot of interesting tech. But I kind of looked around and eventually I just was thinking, well, I want digital money that no one can mess with. I want that to win. I want that for myself, but I also want that to win. And I have to look at like, is anything have more adoption? Well, maybe yes. Well, what are the barriers to that getting mass adoption? And can I do something about them? And I just eventually just became like, Dash has everything I want, or 90% of what I want, and is just a little behind. And it's a lot easier to push that forward than it is to change the other problems with the other things. And then that's kind of where I went. And so far, I've been more right than I had thought, I guess. Things have turned out pretty well.
Worked out pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, things have turned out, and they're still in the process of turning out well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking a lot of hard work. But to be honest, I would encourage anyone to experiment with actually using all of the stuff, right? Use some stable coins, use some privacy coins, use some other ones, just use Bitcoin, use Lightning, play around with it, deal with the trade-offs, and then see where you get and see if you can get other people to use it, and make up a decision for yourself, of course.
Yeah, that's pretty good, because the ease of use, speed, and any major roadblocks that really make the decision. And you were talking about payments and payment processing, and one wallet that I think that really changed the game in terms of hardware wallets was Tangems, because you're just able to tap and perform transactions with the app. Whereas other hardware wallets that I have, there's quite a few steps involved. So just making those changes for the end user, the ease of use is pretty much the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, there you go.
Got one of them.
So it's a great wallet. It just works, right?
Yeah.
It does exactly what you want it to do. It's secure, and I love it.
Yeah, there's some things that I think we really need to still work on. The thing with crypto is such a massive undertaking. The whole space is such a massive undertaking. A lot of people are wasting their time, but a lot of people are also doing really important things, but in a little silo here or there. And there's only so many things you can work on. Like, for example, privacy. Privacy is something that Dash is doing a big overhaul on this year. And for other projects, might have gotten a little bit ahead in that regard, but then massively neglected other things. And so one thing that I think is a big barrier to mass adoption is private key management. And there's basically like seed phrase. First, seed phrase is not super intuitive anyway, but a seed phrase for all your money only works if you treat this like cash, like digital cash, where this is your wallet, your the thing in your pants, and if you lose it or lose the money in it, that's fine, because you can do another one. But once we have a single set of keys being linked to your identity, for example, and your ownership and your documents and all this other stuff, then it's not so. Then it's losing your keys permanently is like a life-altering event, and
Right.
people are just not going to do that. So
Yeah.
there's a couple things I would like to see. First of all, on the Dash Evolution side of things, there are multiple keys for like there's an authentication key, there's like a credit transfer key, there's like a few other little keys you can use. So in the event that some key can get compromised, you can go back and destroy those keys and remint them, right? Revoke access and go back to it, right? So there are ways of like, if you get hacked, it's not just, oh, you lose your money, but like someone owns your identity now, and now you're kind of
That's a
screwed.
huge problem.
So there are those kinds of things. But for the base master set of keys, there's no like, that's kind of the ultimate thing of if you lose your seed phrase, you can, even if you can get it back, if someone else gets it, that's the problem. If someone else gets it, even if you get access to it, you can't kick them off. And that's where I don't know exactly how to do it. There's got to be some sort of a maybe the idea is all your documents, all your everything, all your offline backups have to just be completely not touching anything, and then you only use keys that you can later kind of revoke with things. Maybe that's the thing. I don't have the answer to that, but I think that basically, to summarize, everyone, like, think about how you work in the fiat world, or as we call it, right?
Yeah.
You have your, let's just say, your bank account, your online ID or whatever, and you have a username and password, basically.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose that, you can usually recover it by some kind of physical ID. Like, you literally have a physical item. Consider that like a NFC card for your keys on a hardware wallet or something, for example. That could be the same thing, where you have like a physical backup that gets you back in. And then if you lose your ID, like getting a new ID with no birth certificate, no nothing, is really hard. But you usually have a few items somewhere to keep it back.
That
it's
are
the exact same
related
thing
in
as
some way. Yeah.
Yes. The only problem is all that so far just gets you access back to your keys, but doesn't sort of remint them, doesn't scramble them again. So if someone steals your identity, you can then reprove it, but you can also kick them off your identity. That's the one thing we have left to solve. I think you get all that figured out, and I think that people will be very comfortable with using crypto.
I've talked to CCM about this, and like one of the hurdles when it comes to this is trust into an entity that will actually hold it for you. Because right now, if you say lost your driver's license or birth certificate, you go to the government. CCM don't get pissed off. You go to the government and they can reissue it because they can validate who you are by other means, right? So when it comes to crypto, if there was some sort of single source that could validate you, that would probably help. But I don't think people would trust in just the single source. So we end up in the same problem where you want to decentralize and you want to have multiple paths. It does seem like a big problem right now to sort of solve for everyone to be on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just timely bringing this up, it seems to me like this is where the argument comes in for stuff like a digital ID. With regard to that,
that's the path that leads, right? It's always been up there.
Yeah, so it would seem. Let me reset a little bit because we keep having people piling in here. Welcome everybody. Appreciate you coming on in here. We're here every Tuesday night, but tonight's a special one because we have Joël Valenzuela, who is here tonight talking about Dash and some of the stuff that Dash is working on. And we haven't gotten to the recent partnership yet. We're going to get to that in a minute. But if you end up having a question for him, put it in the chat and we'll try to get that answered tonight. If I could take you, Joel, to a slightly different path here. I don't know if you saw the interview that we did with, matter of fact, you might even know him because he lives in New Hampshire, with Dr. Jay Corzan. Have you met him? He's the chiropractor. Matter of fact, he was at the conference you and I were at. I don't know if he came up and talked to you.
I must have at some point. It rings a bell, but again...
No, that's okay. Well, during the interview, we had him on because he was when he and I sat down at the conference, he gave me this like story of trying to get crypto integrated into his business and how he's been trying to do that for years. My question to you is that something that's even on Dash's radar with regard to like a business solution, with regard to being able to help businesses integrate crypto in general, Dash specifically, into their businesses?
Yeah, sort of. And this is where things get super simple and super complex at the same time,
At the
depending
same
on
time.
what you're doing. If you're just a random person with a business and you want to take crypto, it's like a couple of clicks, whether
Right.
it's that or whether it's getting on your phone. It's just so easy. Or I wouldn't say so easy, but it's very doable, right? In fact, there's an app I could recommend, Bit Request. It's an open source app that just lets you direct the money that goes in to your own wallet. So you have like a tangent, and I even have
Mhm.
a video on my channel that showed 2 videos that have setting up a tangent wallet in like 2 minutes, and then setting up bit request to feed into that. So then
Oh,
you can just have an app on your phone. People pay you. You give 598 in USD, charge it, and do Dash, do Litecoin, do whatever they pay in. It just ends up in your tangent, and you're good. And so
Nice.
that's super easy. And there's like an online plugin for that. There's especially the online world, there's a lot of it. Where things get tricky is a lot of businesses have this built-in software and merchant flows and things like that. And that's where it gets really tricky. Like, for example, hey, I use QuickBooks. Is there any integration into QuickBooks? It's like, well, sort of, but it's janky and you got to do some manual stuff. Oh, okay. Or this happened more times you believe. Oh, I'm a restaurant. I'd love to take crypto, but I use Toast. And Toast is proprietary software, and all their hardware does not let non-Toast software on it. So you just literally will have to get a completely separate device and install some crypto thing on it.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, well, they want to use Toast. So then that's when it becomes a headache. And so there are tools again right now, but the ultimate thing is just you have to get into the point of sale systems eventually. But
yeah.
again, that's the chicken or the egg. That's the end goal. Where, for example, now, as I mentioned, Square has Bitcoin now. Unfortunately, it's Jack Dorsey, so he's a little bit of a maximalist and he uses crap
A
lightning
little
tech
bit.
instead. Yeah, so unfortunately, because of that decision, it's just gonna be annoying with them. But for example, Clover is another very popular point of sale system,
Yeah.
and they have a few different crypto plugins, and they're coming out with more that I'm kind of
Oh,
investigating.
okay. I didn't know that.
A bunch of other things, like as far as I know, Verifone has a BitPay plugin. So if you want to accept crypto, whatever BitPay accepts, you could do that. The problem is BitPay is it's the original crypto point of sale kind of thing, at least in the US. And the user experience is really bad these days. And they do
Okay.
weird things like randomly try to KYC the paying customer, which is like unheard of. Like, why would you do that? And so
Why would you do that? Yeah.
that's weird. Then Ingenico, as I mentioned, in fact, I have a tab open. I don't remember if it was Ingenico, but Ingenico is integrating crypto payments into its point of sale now. So I don't know. I think it might be through the Wallet Connect protocol, but I'm not sure. But basically, all this stuff is coming along. So if you want to be like, if you want to be a random business owner who doesn't really care and just wants to take crypto, that's when it's annoying. But if you are a crypto fan as a business owner and you want to find a way to do it, and it's a priority for you, and you care about the crypto, you want to hold it yourself, especially, that's when it becomes a lot more doable.
Okay. There's a comment and a question, and I would love to get your reaction to this comment because, again, veteran in this space, educator in this space. What's your thoughts about this? Where he's saying that perhaps crypto is trying to go decentralized too quickly?
Well, decentralization is always sort of a progressive thing to a certain extent, but I think I would say the opposite is true. People are trying to just go centralized too quick, and
Thank you. Okay.
that's the fact that, for example, there's just a few large Lightning Network hubs that route everything through, And if they decide to censor, you just can't use the Lightning Network practically.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And the fact that like OneCoin is going through Square, that's a problem. And the fact that so many people use custodians to process everything, that like Coinbase is this absolute titan and people don't really do their own thing that much, that's kind of a problem. I think that decentralization does make things technically more of an engineering problem, but you can solve that. The big thing is, once you have these centralized dependencies, it's really hard to decide later to decentralize once you have an incumbent. So I would start decentralized and push that forward as much as you can. It's never linear. It's never like, wow, perfect decentralization, and then we just get that mass adopted over time. A lot, it's like you have to start centralized, because like Satoshi ran Bitcoin with an iron fist for like the first little, because there was nothing else. There was just him. There was just him mining, basically. There was just him pushing code. There was just, then other people joined in as well, but he probably knew all of them and could just tell people what to do. And eventually it just pushed out to where now one person doesn't really have that much of an effect. Now that does happen, but at the same time, the structure should always be decentralized. You should always make an effort to keep it as decentralized as you can. It is sort of an ebb and flow, expand, contract over time, but it always has to be the reason. The very easy mental checklist for me is make crypto win in everything. Like everything should be crypto and everything crypto should win. But what is crypto? Crypto is just decentralized permissionless stuff. And if it's not decentralized permissionless stuff, then in my very lizard brainy mental checklist, it's not crypto, therefore I don't care to push it forward. It's just a very simple mental calculus of like, do that and get more of that in things and expand it and do it well.
I like it. I complain all the time that crypto has gotten away from its birth ethos, the centralization stuff is killing me. But anyway, we got a question, so let's bring that up now. I'm not sure if he's referring to Dash integrating with Shopify or like just that payment processing, but maybe you could kind of quickly hit both with regard to this.
Yeah. I can't remember, and the problem is anytime I go through this, I have to like, my knowledge is like not current as of like a few months ago or something, and it changes a lot. There are a lot of Shopify plugins for crypto. There weren't like a year or two ago. It was like no one then, and now also before then there was a lot of like Magento or WooCommerce or a whole bunch of other things people used. Those still exist, but Shopify has really taken over. And so there are a few different Shopify plugins. I have to find a, let me see. I'm just going to just put this query in so it can be done while we're still talking. But basically, there are some plugins. There's at least a few that support plugins in Shopify that support crypto. I know Stripe also does stable coins, a few different stable coins. But so yeah, there are ways of doing it today.
Okay, fair enough. We got one more question. I know this is kind of off the beaten path from what we were just talking about, but maybe you want to address this. This seems to be a common question, not just with regard to Dash, as he's asking here, but with Bitcoin and all this other stuff. Well, go. I'll let you answer. I'll shut up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so quantum, it's one of those things. It's kind of like the big brother to Y2K kind of thing. For those who remember that, it's one of those things. So a good friend of mine, Diego Salazar, runs CipherStack. He employs several like PhD cryptographers, and what he has told me is the more high level quantum experts. It's one of those weird things where all the high level experts on this subject have widely different conclusions. Like, it's not like the experts have consensus that this is the way it's going to go. It's just like the experts, the more expert they are, the more they disagree with each other. So it seems like what we do know is quantum computing is theoretically going to be a thing that can, do all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of practical progress. The unknown it's also unknown. It's not what I would say 100% known that this will become 100% a problem in the future. I think it'll become like 90 something percent, but there's still a lot of vagueness. How long does it take till we get some sort of a breakthrough for this to be a thing? Seems to be like the more reasonable range is like the 2 to 10 years, or 3 to 10, I would say. Some people say 2, some people say 25 even, or some.
Right.
It's really hard to tell. So there's a couple of things that the thing about quantum computing is if it's able to actually undo modern cryptography in a practical sense, then everything gets wrecked. I'm not talking about crypto, like all basic encryption for bank passwords, for everything. The entire internet gets wrecked. So you will need to do something about it at some point. Now, the problem is it's kind of like saying you will need to switch off of fossil fuels for vehicles at some point. You go all electric. Okay, sure. But if you do that too early, there's some massive trade-offs that you might have to do, including cost and economic stuff. With the quantum computing thing, there's a couple of issues. First of all, the biggest one is security and novelty. That there's this saying that you don't roll your own crypto, like you don't come up with base level cryptography on your own, because it is so easy for there to be an exploit in the math of it that just unwinds everything and you're just done. So that's why the same kind of signature schemes like ECDSA that you use for almost every single cryptocurrency for the, is, decades old, many decades old, and is super widely established because there's basically no big exploits in it. We were sure of this pretty much. So I remember reading some article from like a year ago about, one of the novel quantum resistant cryptographic schemes got broken by non-quantum means, meaning there's a legacy, like a more, traditional exploit to it. And so, which doesn't happen with modern cryptography, which again is also quantum insecure. So you have to make sure it actually just works. And the other big thing is it is massively inefficient and data intensive compared to modern cryptography schemes for the most part. Again, me is not a cryptographer saying this, so make sure if you want a more accurate, nuanced take, talk to an actual cryptographer. But this is what I've heard is the signature schemes take so much more data. And like as an example of this, there was a cryptographic function or cryptographic technique called confidential transactions, or CT, that was created sort of around 2013, 2015. It was implemented first. It was meant for Bitcoin, but it was implemented in Monero first in 2017. And it basically uses a range proof, which is a type of math, to hide amounts and balances of crypto addresses. Use zero knowledge proofs essentially to do that, but not actually where you send it to. So that means if I sent you some money, everyone could see I sent you money, but they couldn't see how much it was for or how much you actually have in your own possession. And so across all different CT addresses, you could see the amount, you could see the total amount that's in all those, but it could, who knows how much is in each individual one. But anyway, this kind of math made Monero prohibitively expensive to use. And in 2018, something like that, right around that time, Monero transactions were huge in terms of data load. And the average for like 6 months or something like that, a very long period of time, the average Monero transaction fee was $2. And this is for a network doing just like a few thousand transactions a day, not 400,000 like Bitcoin does. And even then, Bitcoin is rarely that high anymore. But then a cryptographic breakthrough came through called bullet proofs, which basically allowed to do the mathematical proof, to basically do the math into with a very much smaller amount of data. And then now Monero has been pretty cheap and efficient ever since. So I guess the thing is, you could, if you implemented a post-quantum cryptographic scheme today, first of all, you'd have risk that it gets broken through something non-quantum, but also that it becomes just massive and clunky, and all your nodes overheat, and it becomes super expensive to use, and then it just fails for those reasons.
Just from
and then a year or two after, there's some breakthrough that everyone jumps on that is efficient, and you're stuck on the old one. And you have to like scramble to try to change it out, and like again, that's why I think a lot of people are kind of like waiting and seeing what comes out, and I think that the scramble won't really happen until we start to see some like someone gets a quantum computer and starts breaking some algorithms and stuff, and then just says, hey guys, it's happening. And then everyone scrambles, and then by the time someone else gets a quantum computer of any sufficient, it could be a year later or something like that, that someone else does that, and then might attack some chains, and then there should be enough time. So it's a very serious issue conceptually, and it's just that today it's still, I think it's not the number one problem we have to deal with crypto today.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Oh, we got another one.
Yeah, no, he's basically saying thank you. He wanted to get your opinion as the expert and so on and so forth. So thank you for jumping on into that. We are so deep into this interview as far as time is concerned. I can't even believe it. We kind of expected it, but we need to get into this latest partnership with Eon. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct, because I was told I
think so.
Incorrectly pronouncing it. So we'll see. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Pay, whatever.
Yeah. Could you give us a little bit
there's not a whole ton of details other than there's this company called Eon Pay, which basically allows people to pay with crypto at like 50 million merchants around the world. And how the partnership came about is thankfully Dash is a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. And because someone ran into it at a conference, was referred, says, hey, you do a lot of going to conferences, talking to companies, you should try to work for Dash. And so this funny enough, Daria is her name, which Daria in Russian, the shorthand is Dasha. So Dasha works for Dash. It's kind of funny. But she just asked the network. She didn't talk to me at all if I wanted to hire anyone. She just went right to the network, and now I have a coworker. It was voted on by the network. And like, again, that's the beauty of decentralization, is this person just recruited themselves and went to conferences and got, has been constantly feeding me leads that then I talked to. And so we talked to this company, and they said, oh, we'd be happy to add you. And so that was kind of it. Like that part is not, there's not a big story behind that. Just, oh yeah, we want to be added, and they said yes, and that's awesome. So from my understanding, a lot of places outside, so the US is probably one of the more antiquated payment technology type jurisdictions in the world. I would say it's one of the older ones. So like, for example, if you tell European that people still use the chip in their card sometimes, or even swipe, they'll be like, are you serious? What the hell? Like, that is like generations old. So outside of just like NFC, like tap to pay has been universal in the rest of the world for a decade now or something. Maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know, but it's been universal for a while. A lot of Asia and also emerging economies have QR code payment systems, where when was the last time you paid with a QR code in the US? Probably, or even in Western Europe, probably not a lot or ever, or last time I did, it was with crypto, right? It was
right, exactly.
Crypto made it. Yeah. But so apparently in a lot of countries there are, just a little QR code. You scan it, you connect your wallet, your app, and then you hit pay, and it just goes through. And that's kind of what this is. This is one of those, from my understanding. Again, I haven't used it myself yet, because I don't think it has any US adoption. I haven't left the country yet in the last couple of weeks. My understanding is in jurisdictions where it is offered, it is relatively universal. Because my first question is, do you have any merchant data APIs that we could potentially pull from to put into our merchant map in our wallet, so it automatically tells people where they can spend their Dash? Because I thought, oh, that's very useful. And basically they were like, well, not really, but also in the countries where this works, it's like 85% of the merchants are going to be covered. So like you don't really need to be like, oh, I wonder if this one does. It's not like 1 out of every 100. It's just like 85 out of every 100.
It's
So
flipped. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So just like
interesting. That's one of the things I
no
love
one
about the
sees.
Dash wallet.
Yeah. It's so we are working on getting so right now it's usable through a few different wallets like OKX wallet, Binance wallet, some of these other wallets that support Dash, but also support this Eon Pay protocol in there because it's a specific, it's like a digital handshake of like making the connection and then sending. And so we're going to get it integrated into the Dash Pay wallet itself as well. And so then it'll be you take your Dash wallet, you go to, I don't know, Mexico, Nigeria, or wherever else. And then you see that little QR code, and then you go, oh, let me scan this and see if that works. And there you go, just
It's
right like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is a company that's similar to this in the US that's gotten a lot of hype from the crypto world called Flexa. I think it was 2021 or 2022. And whenever Consensus was in New York last, the Wiggleloss twins, who I guess must be investors in Flexa, went and paid at a Starbucks there with crypto, and they were hyping it, and that was Flexa. And they provide these little things called flex codes, which allow you to scan them in your wallet, and then you just pay, and it works. And they're accepted at a few different big box stores around the U.S. as well as like Sheetz gas stations and other things like that. So it's not massive, but it is still a decent adoption. But it's the same. It's basically things like Eon Pay are the Flexa of other countries.
Gotcha. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention one of the things I've read and seems to be part of this partnership is that this platform also is like working on stuff for AI agents, and in particular, putting, well, I guess it would take Dash and put it, like, in my opinion, at the center of this agentic economy. You got thoughts about that? I mean, I know AI isn't like there yet, but I think we're moving in that direction. Is there any thoughts you'd like to share with regard to that?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure all the details of how this works with Eon Pay, for example, but I do know that I think that AI agents are going to be a big part of the economy in the future, where right now, a lot of times what you have are with automated checkouts, automated billing, and stuff like that. You have systems where you basically give up control over your money in order for convenience to happen.
Right.
And they're at the same time, like, I have had full control over my money for the last decade or so. And one of the annoying parts about that is I have to remember to pay the bills, for example. Or what you can do also is have like authorize a certain smart contract if you use one of those chains that will automatically do a recurring pay and whatever. Smart contracts also have ways of things go horribly wrong and you lose everything. So that's a little tricky too. Yep. I kind of think that if by authorizing, just still having push payments, as they call it, right? Payments where you have to initiate the payment, having that, but giving a balance to an AI agent that just under certain circumstances, intervals, goes and makes payments and buys things on your behalf, I think could be a very cool thing. And so, for example, like if you just say, you have a list of things that you want to buy, for example, and you just say, tick, 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 can you buy all the ingredients for, like, I want to make this fancy cocktail or whatever. It says, oh, here's what it has in it. It says, can you buy all those ingredients and ship them to my address? Sure. And then it goes out and buys and ships it there, and then you're good. Things like that are going to be very cool to have in the future. And I think that especially when you have very fast on-demand kind of actions, you will need some sort of a payment with instant transactions or very fast ones at least. And I think that obviously Dash fits the bill for that. A few other modern cryptos might as well, but that's also, I think, where you start to see the other ones being sort of left behind, where you might see, oh, you have to wait 10 minutes, you have to wait an hour. No one's going to. Your AI agent is just not going to be able to complete the task for all this.
Yep. And because you mentioned it, that wasn't going to be the question I was going to ask, but because you kind of mentioned it, touched on it, Could you talk about how Dash has an instant settlement? Basically, could you just expound on that for people who are not really familiar with Dash?
Yeah. So this is something you can go down a little bit of a technical rabbit hole, but it's fun. So when you have a mined cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin or something like that, it falls apart if the blocks are too fast. Like if you have like 1 second blocks, you can't really do that because you don't have the time. Miners are competing to find the next block. That's just the way things work. And so you have to have a large enough interval to where someone can create the next block and the next one to do it. Otherwise, you have something called an orphan, whereas they both could do it at the same time. Only one's valid, the other one, they wasted their time on it. And then you just have transactions being dropped all the time. It's just a mess. So pretty much in most systems, the fastest you can get a block for mining is like a minute. Other than that, you start to really have issues if you make it shorter than a minute. And so a minute's a long time to wait at the supermarket checkout. So Dash has a system called Instant Send, which basically uses the masternode network, because Dash has the miners and also the masternodes, which are a staked level, that as soon as they see a transaction, they lock it in and make sure you can't double spend it, you can't reverse it, and that it will make it into a block. And then once the block shows up, then that block, the first seen block on the network that's mined, gets locked in via a function called chain locks, which makes it permanent. So proof of work is kind of I guess a transaction, how fast you can get security. It's sort of an inefficient system, and this system on top of it just makes sure that it's all guaranteed and smooth all the way through. And it's kind of like blends the two to make it a very efficient system. Now, when you have proof of stake, for example, you can have like 1 second blocks. And so, for example, the Dash Evolution network, the data network, doesn't use miners at all. It only uses the staked element. And instead of having 2.5 minute blocks, but then these mechanisms to make sure it's all instant anyway, those are just 1 second blocks, and everything just works super easily that way. Now, of course, there's always trade-offs with proof of stake. For example, coin distribution. One of the big ones is something called liveness, which basically means if you let's just say you're half of the, or 2/3 or a big chunk of the Bitcoin miners or Dash miners or whatever go offline all of a sudden, the chain never stops. It just keeps going. And just whoever's mining on it keeps with the accumulated proof of work. It just will keep going. Whereas it's possible in a proof of stake network, if a bunch fall offline, you could have just a chain halt where it just stops. And so there's trade-offs for both of these systems, but basically the way Dash does it is the instant transactions work on both chains in different kind of ways, but they both kind of work, and you kind of need this hybrid system. eCash just got a instant finality, even though they're a mined cryptocurrency, and a very similar function to Dash, although 10 years later, I guess. But then there are a few others that try like, for example, Caspa and Quai are two ones that people have heard of that kind of do that, but it's not final for 10 seconds or so, and they have a very much of a different complicated architecture anyway. So anyway, there's a few ways of doing it. I think Dash is the best for a mined cryptocurrency as far as like that fast finality.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got a few things lined up that I want to make sure we try and get to before we wrap up here. And now I'm going to this one, even though this wasn't the first thing. Anything you want to add about that? And to that, he's talking also about this with chargebacks, because I mean, we all see that in our current system with charges and that kind of thing. Maybe you can kind of address this together.
Man, that's a mess. And I have to say, the credit card systems don't really have advantages. The only thing when you have, if you learn fundamentally how it works, then you realize that everything is kind of a shell game a little bit. But think about a chargeback is wild, because first of all, it stems from the fact that credit cards are pull systems. They have charges. I mean, go ahead and charge my Dash wallet. You can, because I decide when you get money. No one could just do that. And when I had a bank account, there was a time, there were I went through some lean years where I had like times of anxiety around what I would find for my balance, because I never was sure of the money I actually had, because someone could always take it away. Anyone, and this is something is actually insane about the way this whole thing works, is if you give your credit card number to someone, they can just take anything they want from you. They just decide to take it anytime they want. And it just, when there's a charge, you just gotta fight them over it. But it's still the fact they could charge it. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Google Pay and Apple Pay and those kinds of things came online, is because when you tap and pay with that, you're not giving up your credit card information. You're giving up a payment token, which allows them to spend the credit card for that one thing, but you're not actually divulging your card number. So that's one reason why, if you are still using banks, you should use those apps instead. But so the fact that you have that then necessitated this awful thing called chargebacks, where now you can just say, oh, I didn't like that, I'm going to pull it back. And a lot of times, especially high risk industries, you have a very high chargeback rate. And guess what happens when you have high chargebacks? That's risk to the consumer, or to the business, where the business now, they have to factor in basically post-fact theft into the thing. It's literally like a chargeback it's either a theft reversal or it's theft. So either theft happened, or the consumer got stolen from, or the merchant gets stolen from. One way or the other, there's theft going on there. And you have to price that in. So you have to charge an extra fee on top of that and all that stuff. And so it's just same thing with like credit card rewards points. A lot of times they give you rewards points because they do things like collect and sell all your data, and then they try to entice you in with that, or they are paying you to roll the dice that you're going to pay all your payments on time, because as soon as you don't, then you get hit with the interest, and then all those reward points you give it right back. So it's this little made up, messed up game where they say, no, you can always dispute charges. No, you can do this, but they're really just screwing you. And so with crypto, for example, it's always your money. You just choose when to send it, and it goes out, and that's it. It's final. And whoever's accepting it's like you paid someone cash. You get the cash discount because it's cash. And that's why, for example, there's some spending tools built into the Dash wallet that will give you a significant discount on some. I was
hoping you would talk about that. Thank you.
2 to 5%. Or the other day I bought, so for example, I just bought something at Target the other day. I had to buy a couple appliances and other things. So it was like a $500 thing, and I got 5% off by using Dash. So that's a $25 discount that I saved just for doing that. And then the other day, it was, a couple months ago, I was at a wedding, and you have crap food at the wedding, and then late at night you get hungry after the reception, and so a few of us wanted some pizza, so we got Domino's, and I got a 13.5% discount. So that's not bad either. Again, that's the opposite of a high risk of chargeback ding. So this is what happens when you don't have that. You get real advantages like that.
Excellent. All right, let's get to this one. It's about Dash itself, and so asking, is there any earnings, staking? And I know we didn't touch on that, so thank you for asking the question. And Joel, have at it, bud.
So basically, the master network, in exchange for running nodes and securing the network, and they have to prove they own 1,000 units of Dash, and Evo nodes, which run the Evolution network, are master nodes, but also run the Evolution network, and that's 4,000 Dash. So those two types run the network, and they do get paid for it. And so therefore, if you do one of these things, I guess it has the a component of it is the actual staking, the actual putting of the money up, and you can earn on that, I guess. So Masternode, I think, is like 7% APY right now, something like
7.7.
Yeah, it's something not, it's not an amazing, because if it is amazing, it's probably a scam, but it's decent. But so for 1,000 Dash is what, like 70 grand right now or something. So that might not be accessible for everyone. Again, it's not, the point is to run the network. However, there are a few options. Probably the easiest, there's a company called CrowdNode, which lets you pool funds together for it. So they have two ways of doing it. One, you can give as little as half of a Dash, which is, what is that, like $35. Get started. They hold it and they run masternodes with it and give you your portion of what would be the staking rewards on that. And also, if you have, I think the minimum was like 50 Dash or something, but like again, a smaller chunk, you can get into some multi-sig scheme where now you're running a share of a masternode, but you have the keys to get a refund at any time, even if the company goes bust or tries to steal from you. So that's the trustless shares version. And I personally like that one a lot better. But the point is, either way, you can smaller holders can kind of come in. I would personally love to see even more like a tokenized offering of some kind, like I think in Ethereum and stuff, they call that like liquid restaking and stuff. But we're working on some of those things. But the answer is yes, you can get some back. There's also a DEX called the Maya protocol, which is a fork of Thorchain, and they have Dash swaps available on there. And if you provide liquidity for those swaps, you get a portion of the fees that the exchange makes for every single exchange. So that's another way you could potentially earn. And so we're working on a few other DEX integrations. So hopefully there's going to be a menu of things to like earn in the future. But right now, the running your own masternode or Evanode or doing it through CrowdNode, that's kind of the way you want to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I could also just mention that I run the Node Factory, and we do exactly that. We fractionalize nodes, and Dash is actually one of the offerings that we have as well, because
nice.
$30,000 is pretty pricey for the average individual to do it. So fractionalize.
Let me we'll have to the Node Factory, right? Is that
the Node Factory? Nodefactory.com.
Okay. I will. Well, maybe we'll talk after this, because there's some stuff we can get going on this. Maybe.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. I'm gonna bring this up here, but I think we should preface your answer with like, I don't know. The Dash has been on fire lately as far as price action is concerned, and quite frankly, even at its current price, is nowhere near its all-time high, and potential. What's the word I'm looking for? Something to value.
Fair value.
Yeah, fair value. Thank you. So please talk to the price, I guess, a little bit, if you could.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? There's a couple things to take into account. First of all, as we already talked about, crypto is very new and speculative and things like that. And so there's almost no value in crypto. I don't say almost no, but it's the vast minority of the crypto's value is practical utilities. And what do you need it for? Most times when you see a price, it's because people are betting on where it will be in the future. And that's just kind of the reality, right?
Yeah.
So Dash, for example, and I did a post about this before, not only is the tech light years better than it was in 2017, but there's 4 to 5 times the actual transaction volume there was at the very peak of 1,600 USD per coin back in the day. So clearly there's a little bit of a divorce there. So basically what happened is the price went really high, and then, attention, whatever, sort of faded away. And then you kind of at the stability. So again, this is a lot of this is my opinion, right? But my opinion is that the lower bound, the price floor is kind of utility, where like 20 to 35 range, which you've had for many years, a lot of time, and that is kind of like the base, right? As far as like, it can't really go that much below that, because that's what people value it for, actual utility. So everything on top of that, I would say that plus speculation. And so I think what we're seeing now is people are starting to see what we've been building, see the commitment to privacy, see other things, and they're starting to bet on it doing well, and then growing into that. Now, on the other hand, I guess my friend John would kind of argue with me on this, because he's less of a pessimist on this. Oddly enough, I'm the pessimist about like the Dash price and stuff like that, because I'm also a pessimist on like the Bitcoin price and all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely not a pessimist about anything about Dash, including long-term price, but just like I'm more of a realist as far as what I think is going on right now. But John Gotts of the Digital Gold Foundation created this crypto fair value benchmark, where basically for a lot, and you should probably have him on your show at some point. He basically looked into fair value is, of course, a concept in traditional investing as well, right? And so basically what he did is he benchmarked when Bitcoin hit $100,000 because of the confluence of investor exposure in the market and a whole bunch of other things. And so again, this is his benchmarking. He benchmarked Bitcoin to that. And basically then he calculated all kinds of different assets or aspects to it. Like, for example, network security, how many developers there are, how many transactions, how many users, what volume, etc. Like all these things together to create a fair value score of 100,000, let's just say. And so applying those same criteria to Dash based on the total number of transactions, of users, of volume, of everything, developers, everything, he estimated, I think the calculation comes out to like 5,400 a coin today, which sounds, oh my gosh, that's like such hopium, but that's still like 3.5% of Bitcoin's market cap. Let's not get too crazy with that. It's not. And are there 3.5% as many users, developers, as much security, as much everything as Bitcoin? I mean, I would say yes. It's like 10% of transaction volume for one. So there's that. So that's kind of the fair value kind of equation there. And of course, I'm the super bear because I'm not looking at it on, I'm looking at in a purely adoption utility and not as an asset class the same way he is. So that's why he pegs it as that. But basically, I think that one thing I've been happy to see is volume has gone up on Dash during this time as well. It's transaction volume on both chains, for example. There's been a lot of new users of some new social apps we've been trying to make. There's been a bunch of new exchange listings. Hyperliquid, for example, that they just added Dash for perpetuals for futures trading on the Hyperliquid DEX, as well as Aster DEX and a few other things, and got some pretty massive volume. Like, I think a lot of the trading volume for Dash recently has been like 80% of market cap or more. Like, it's been just a lot of volume going on.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a lot of like upward type things, but what these things, such as these payment integrations, all of those kinds of things, that's what I look at, and that's what what I think anyone looking into a successful project wants to see. You want to see it become more useful over time. You want to see the technology get better. You want to see more things built on it. You want to see more users come in. And so I'm just focusing on hitting all those things as much as I can. And I think that we do have a pretty cool future ahead of us if we keep this up.
Okay. I don't disagree. You guys are doing great things as far as I'm concerned. Okay. I think we'll take this last one and then we'll I think Jar has a final question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
I think earlier we also had a question, and I might have missed bringing it up here, asking if there are already other tokens in this whole Dash network, and he's asking here about this.
Looking for a dip. It's always that. Listen, yeah. The Dash Evolution Network does have a token functionality, and unlike stuff like Ethereum, they're what you call native tokens as opposed to contract tokens. So like with Ethereum, you run a smart contract, you run a little computation every time you send a token, which means that you have, first of all, risk of contract exploit. So every time I send a token through MetaMask, I risk that token then drains all my token balance at some point in the future from some contract exploit, even when I just wanted to send. And also it costs a lot more money to send because you have to do a computation. It's not just very simple. So Dash has something called native tokens, which I think a few others like Multiverse X, I don't remember which other projects have, which is just a very basic schema of, mint token, send token here, and it's not in some computation. But so the token functionality is live now. You can mint tokens and send them. There's a few, the wallet ecosystem isn't where I'd like it to be, to where we have an extension wallet, that there's another one coming out on mobile, and then the basic mobile, like the DashPay payment app, will at some point soon support sending and receiving credits and tokens. Hopefully, again, just have to get all that stuff gone. So it's not as efficient to use, but it is live right now, the functionality. So I know someone is also working on a DEX for that. Now, I couldn't give timelines. I have to look into what, again, a bunch of third-party developers are building all this stuff. But so basically, we should have a pretty rich token ecosystem pretty soon where you could be able to do all kinds of things. A friend of mine built a merchant token system, which is like a point of sale type system that basically allows a merchant to issue Dash tokens as well. So then you could say tokenize reward points and things like that, for example. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's building on that. It's not quite, it's live, it's ready, but it's not super ready for prime time yet.
Fair enough. Thanks for doing that. All right, Jar, go ahead. You're up, brother. I like the question he's got, so that's why we're going to do this one here.
It's a fun question, but we have close to 260 people on the stream. So if you're new here, please smash the like button.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us today. If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in crypto right now, whether it be regulation, adoption, or some new type of tech, what would it be?
I'd probably go with what I was saying earlier about key management. If I could make it so it's fixed, so everyone could have, let's just say something like an NFC, like Tangent Wallet or something like that, some kind of physical device that that's interoperable with all crypto wallets, basically, just like a seed phrase is. That's what I like about seed phrases, is it works everywhere. Something like that, that's like a physical backup, like your government ID, in case you get locked out of stuff, that gets you back in. And also some sort of a social recovery system in case you lose that, even to where then you have a magic, you just say, hey, I have my magic word, I put it in, you designate 3 people, well, let's say 3 or 5 people as your recovery partners. And if 3 out of 5 then approve the recovery transaction, then you get all your keys back. I would like that to be there, but also, as I mentioned, with a key, like a reset, not just you get access to it, but if someone hacked it, they still have access to it. Like
Right.
That is what I would do, because if that was there, I could that's like the biggest unsolved thing. Everything else is falling in place. Regulations are doing surprisingly decent around the world. Not great, but okay. Adoption is coming. I'm seeing more users of everything. The privacy is going really well. There's some challenges, but people are doing it. Scalability is there, usability, all these things are all falling into place on their own. I just have to keep working and wait a couple of years. This is the one thing which I just don't have visibility on that's doing really well yet. It might just be that they're working on this that I haven't seen. But the big problem with that is once that gets released, standardization is going to be annoying. As far as making it standard. So that's the thing that I would, the most headaches, because as someone who's like been pushing this stuff forward for over a decade, I know the headaches that go through when you try to make something standard. And so if this is the one thing I could skip the line on, I would do it that way.
Okay, that's great.
That's a great answer, man. A great answer. Awesome. Jar, do you have any other questions? I mean, I don't want to wrap it on you.
No, we've been here for over almost an hour and 20 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much of Joel's time.
Yeah, man. Joel, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on and being patient with the questions and comments and everything like that. We would like to leave it, though, with you having the proverbial final word. So if you wanted to leave a parting thought for everybody who's watching, again, we got over 260 people watching right now. What would it be? And it doesn't have to be about Dash, can be crypto, whatever. You got the floor, my friend.
Yeah, I'll probably use it as a shill opportunity. Just say just 2 things, DashPay and Yapper, YAPPR. So DashPay is the DashPay wallet, which is just the username contactless wallet that has 100,000 US merchant locations that you can spend at built in there. You can also add me at the Desert Links. I'm on there as well. If you friend me, I'll probably send you a little bit of money, not too much, so don't go crazy. So that, and also, as I mentioned, like the Eon Pay, etc., we're working on getting that and a few other spending tools in the wallet itself. So you should be able to use it everywhere. One thing that I'm getting close to cinching up is anything to dash to anything feature, where hopefully if you have like someone can send Bitcoin in there, it ends up as Dash, and you could scan like a Bitcoin QR code or a Monero or whatever else, and then hit pay, and it ends up as that. And it's just perfectly interoperable. That's what I'm working on. We're hopefully getting that along.
That's
and then
beautiful.
there's something else called Yapper, YAP.PR is the website. You can test it out now if you want, but that works on the Dash Evolution network. It's on testnet. Again, it's not real Dash yet, but it's basically an X-clone type social media site that just works with a bunch of stuff. You have encrypted DMs, you can post, you can send people tips, you can add your crypto addresses, and you own all your own data. But also there's some cool features such as I mentioned, you can just send money to anyone, which isn't really built into X even. But also you can stack usernames. So with X, you register one username and that's it. In this case, I can stack as many usernames as I can register on the Dash network, and they all point to my profile. So if if you could do crypto jar, crypto vase, crypto bucket, get all of them, all the crypto containers. And then if someone says, well, was it a jar or was it a vase? And then they check whichever one they do, it all points together and they can find you. Or crypto coin mindset, crypto coin, or CCM, crypto coin mindset, or like your full legal name or whatever. You can add all those and point to the same thing. And then it just works, and people can send you encrypted DMs. You can send them money. When it hits mainnet, I'm going to be very happy because you get to just log in with Dash and then use that. And also there is a function there where you can import your DashPay contacts. So if I friended a bunch of people that I send money to on a regular basis and I open up Yapper, I can just find everyone I've already friended on the Dash network there and just add them as follower. I'm following on Yapper, and there nice. You go. So we're starting to get to a really cool area in crypto where the end user apps actually start to not suck. So I'm very happy about that.
Listen, man, awesome. I hope you get that in there soon. The Dash to anything. I mean, I interrupted this poor guy's lunch at the New Hampshire conference because they only accepted Bitcoin for this thing I wanted to pay, and I went there with just Dash. So I was like, damn it, how do I convert this? So that would have been great to have as one of those options to be able to do that. So I hope you get that soon.
Yeah, of course. It's just all about making it all work. And I think the thing is, what comes behind that is just there's so many different things, right? There's so many different things that all come into contributing towards making this thing work. And so it's like, 5 years, like the Chinese Communist 5-year plan. You got to have like a 5-year plan of like, okay, how are we going to get here? What are the things? And you just start chopping at those hurdles, and then you get to where you're at.
Yep, axe away.
Awesome. Jar, I know you wanted to just address something real quick.
Yeah, I know we had a super cash comment over here. So this is for Kevin K. The TGE event is happening tonight. Price prediction, I don't have one. I'm hoping it's a cent. If it's a cent, I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. It might spike, it might not, but I'm going to be doing a post stream tomorrow at 1:30 live on my channel. And we'll look at the TGE event and see how everything went. Good luck to you. There you go.
Excellent. Well, Joel, thanks again, man. Really, really appreciate your time. We've gone much longer than we had anticipated. So thank you for being patient and answering all these questions and being here. Really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Well, hopefully have you on again. It's been a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know anytime, and you know where to find me.
All right.
All right. Yes, we do. All right, everybody. We're going to head out again. For everybody that's been here, we're now over 270 people. I really appreciate everybody that's been watching. So many people on X. Thank you very much for sharing this thing. I appreciate all of you. Again, Matrix Money Podcast. Jar and I will be back on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you're watching for that. All right, we're heading out. Have a good night, everybody. Joel, thanks again, bud.
Thank you.